This one we knew was going to be a tough one. Claire's abducted off of episode 11, and she is raped. And a lot of people talked about this, you know, from Stars to Sony to all the producers, of how this was going to happen. And certainly Katrina and Sam felt like we should not shy away from it, that we should show it.
There is a lot of trauma, rape in the Outlander books. We do try to kind of take each one on its own and figure out the best way to show that. There were many discussions with Katrina in terms of the character and how we were going to portray this in a way that, you know, also you want to be sensitive to the actress but also be true to the material, because that is a big part of this book.
Katrina dove into this and portrays this beautifully. The other thing that we wanted to do is find a device of protecting the character. Actually, a lot of research we read that people disassociate when traumatic things happen. It's that kind of life flashing before your eyes thing that you hear so often. What we did here is show a way that Claire survived the trauma. And she survives it by going into a place that she wrapped her family around her like a cloak to protect her from these evil men.
We started calling them dreamscapes, for lack of a better word. They're not dreams. They're obviously Claire's escapism, as you said, into her mind to try to not deal with the reality of the horror that's happening to her. But we had a lot of discussions of what Claire where her mind would take her. You know, an interesting nondescript time period, although one could say we kind of centered it around the 60s.
For her to imagine this house, it came from her reading something, the title card for episode 5. We planted a magazine that she puts down with the modern house that she imagines in 12 when she's going into these dream escapes, that it comes from a place the character could draw from. I asked our department to paint an abstract of Fraser's Ridge. So we open, you'll see that painting. We also brought in the orange from season 2. I think one of the iconic moments is when Claire stands up to the King of France and walks out with her integrity. She grabs that orange and she walks out. And for me in this, it's about that I will not be defeated by you. You will not take, and that's grabbing that orange and having that orange there is that symbol of that.
When people watch the episode, they'll see that, you know, Joe Costa can see, that
yes.
Fergus has both of his hands. You know, the idea of Jamie being in this time, she's imagining him in a time where they're all happy, where they're all whole.
I think this is going to be one of those episodes that people talk about. I think it's also one that you have to watch a few times to really get all the nuances of what we're really trying to do here. When we started talking about the finale, we discussed going farther than you could even imagine. And I think that's what makes this such a dynamic and epic episode.
We always knew we wanted to write this together, and it was probably the hardest episode that we ever had to film.
One of the things about Outlander and Diana's books is not only is it a completely immersive love story, it allows you to go into all aspects of humanity, good and bad.
There is quite a lot of rape in this book series, and, you know, as a show and as actors, you know, I think we all feel the responsibility of not taking those storylines lightly and approaching them with sensitivity. We worked so hard to make sure that every single beat felt true and honest and respectful.
And in order to pull it off, it relied on complete collaboration with Matt, Tony, and the rest of the team. My responsibility as a director is making sure that we're not shooting anything we don't need as far as the potential gratuitous nature of that violence. It was very much a collaborative process with Katrina. One of the things we talked about was how important it was not to empower the violence, literally staying with Claire and shooting it in a way that the violence during the act of the rape, you can barely see it.
We had done a lot of research that said that women often during these kind of attacks can dissociate. And that's a safety mechanism that your body and brain does to live through something like this. We had thought one thing that Claire might do is go off in her head to a different place.
It is very much a psychological device that Claire has created to protect herself.
We knew we all had to come together and create a non-specific time, but you have to start off somewhere. So we started off with the 60s, and then it kind of morphed into an amorphous time that doesn't really have a period.
We came up with this metaphor of that she wraps her family around her. Jamie comes up behind her and wraps a blanket around her, the way that he wrapped his kilt around her in the first season, because that's a symbol of her protection.
As people watch the episode, they'll probably have to watch more than once to see that what Claire's looking at is an abstract of Fraser's Ridge, and that there's elements of Fraser's Ridge coming into the scenes as they grow.
If you're going through a trauma, the darkness is going to creep into the dream escape. Where that evolved was to find these moments of like Lionel in the window or the leak in the ceiling that's happening, and her worry about that Roger and Bree might be dead because they've left, and did they make it through time, to where the end is actually policemen at the door saying, they're gone, they didn't make it.
When I pitched this to Sam and Katrina said, I'm willing to show it all, to do it all, and to look like she's been abused.
For me, yes, it's a horrible situation to have to sort of go through these rape enactments, but for the guys, I think it was just awful that they had to inhabit these horrible rapists, and they were all so respectful. But I think you wanted to feel real and visceral.
I think that was really important to have Katrina be 110% involved in this episode.
We really tried to do something respectful, but we also tried to shine a light on the fact that even though Claire is this strong character, strength isn't just, bullishness. Strength is vulnerability. Strength is also experiencing pain and allowing yourself to be broken to a certain extent.
She's strong, but she's not Superwoman. And so we do have that moment also in the hallway where it just hits her, because that's what happens in real life. You go along and you think you're going to be all right, and then she actually faces Lionel Brown when he's brought into the surgery. But so many women do that, like the bravery of the women these days that go to court and face their attacker. That doesn't mean she's not damaged and that she won't feel it for the rest of her life. And Katrina did a great job on that scene.
It was an absolutely wonderful collaboration with everybody involved in the Outlander team. And I think it's the most collaborative art form that there is. And when you have a really evocative, provocative story to tell, the fact that you're telling it together made a big difference.
We can hopefully shed a light on something that people go through in real life, and in some way then be part of a positive conversation about it. We're at the beginning of a journey with Claire, and I think it'll take a long time for her to put the pieces back together. But the great thing is that she has a loving family around her who also unfortunately understand this experience all too well, and that is something that really gives her a lot of strength.